Hi, I'm Lena Hatchett in the Niswanger Institute for Bioethics, and I'm assistant professor, and I teach and do research on community-engaged projects. In addition to my teaching and research role, I am the Director of Community and University Partnerships. In that capacity, I spend a lot of time building bridges with community partners. That may be for faculty or students. And once those partnerships have been established, I help support and maintain those relationships through the process of community-based participatory research. And that brings me to our discussion with Emily Pinto.
Hi. So I'm Emily Pinto Taylor. I'm a third-year medical student, and I was really fortunate to work with Dr. Hatchett for a project that I used as the capstone for my honors in bioethics and professionalism project, which is a track you can take advantage of here at Stritch, and worked on a project creating mindfulness-based stress reduction classes for mothers and caregivers of children with autism spectrum disorders. So when I started out with this idea, I had heard that Dr. Hatchett did a lot of research in mindfulness and was also a practitioner as well. But I wasn't familiar with anything that was available in Maywood. I just had sort of a broad idea of what I might want to do. And so as part of her role in facilitating university and community partnerships, she was able to hook me up with an organization called the Answer Inc., which was already doing great work with the autism community in Maywood. And then together, once we made that connection, I still needed a lot of instruction how to create a program that made sense in a cultural context here. So Dr. Hatchett worked with me a lot in developing a curriculum and empowering women in the class to lead the program, which was a really helpful thing.
As a personal and professional interest of mine, mindfulness is a wonderful tool, and I've been using that work with communities as outreach and service opportunities to reduce stress for low-income families, Latino families, and also youth in the community. And when Emily came along, she brought the idea of really researching and looking at the evidence base for mindfulness and what impact it could have on low-income families, particularly parents. Part of the question was how to bridge what we do in service into a research question. And we had to really think about how the community was going to engage the mindfulness curriculum and also make it beneficial for them. And Emily's going to speak a little bit about that.
That's a great point. We sort of pursued doing this project. I knew I wanted to use it for my capstone project, and in addition, we pursued getting a grant from the American Psychiatric Foundation to support the work that we were doing, which we were super fortunate to get. And through that, Dr. Hatchett really challenged me to both incorporate objective measures of how to see whether parents were reporting less depression and less stress and more resource utilization. But in addition, using some qualitative measures where in the class every day we let the women teach us what they wanted to learn. So we were able to take some basic practices of mindfulness to prepare for the class. I was reading Dr. Kabat-Zinn's Mindful Parenting. So then taking those ideas, but in addition, hearing, so for example, the women, when we initially started talking about mindfulness, the women really responded to it as being very similar to the state of mind you put yourself in before you pray. That was something they were really comfortable with. It made sense to them this was the place you're at, the place of peace, the place of openness and receptiveness before you begin a conversation with God for them. So we kind of started every class getting ourselves into that place, and then using that framework, we heard a lot of religious examples, a lot of biblical stories. So Dr. Hatchett challenged me to culturally tailor the intervention and kind of follow the lead the women were giving us. So we, responded with more religious examples of the different mindfulness practices. I know we did a week on non-judgmental interaction, and then used biblical examples of the teachings of Jesus as the women, had asked, and it was something they really responded to, which was great to see.
Because this study is going to be one of the first to really look at the impact of mindfulness on low-income parents with children with autism. So it's important to see how they engage the material, how they use it, and how the meaning that they make in terms of mindfulness. So another important feature of community-based work is sustainability and continuity. When a researcher is doing a lab study, they may have a specific start and end date, and the most important feature is to get that work done. When it comes to community-based work, these are people's lives that we're working with, so we want to look at the long-term impact of a research study, knowing that it has a research component but also a service or action component, and the mindful parenting study was able to do that. Emily will talk a little bit about that.
So one of the things also that Dr. Hatchett helped me with the most was creating an intervention that was sustainable and that had significant continuity both within the school. So we had first years who came on board last year and are now running the project this year as second years, who are hoping to develop a manual to disseminate our practices and our weekly curricula to a broader scale, whether it's through an organization like Autism Speaks or just more grassroots in the city of Chicago. But in addition to that, I think it's important to have continuity within the community. So one of the biggest things that I know I learned from Dr. Hatchett was the importance of empowering women within the class to serve as leaders, where we could teach them the information ahead of time and then ask them to help facilitate the discussion the following week. Doing that, I think it really allowed the other women who were there to feel like, again, there's another added level of legitimacy to the idea of mindfulness because it was being taught to them by these women that they knew really well. So in that way, having both continuity on the student and classroom side was a really useful thing that I know you taught me.
Right, and that's a key principle of community-based participatory research. The learning and the knowledge sharing isn't just one direction from the researcher to the participant. It goes both ways. So we're able to learn a great deal from these parents of how they use mindfulness, what it means to them, and how it can impact their lives positively, and having a core facilitator help that process. So as a result of this study on mindful parenting, Emily has been a star student in terms of engaging with the community, but also learning how to write and prepare a grant for submission and funding, learning publication skills, and they've presented 4 posters on the work that they've conducted, and also preparing publication on the work on mindful parenting. So I look forward to our long-term collaboration in this area and continue my work with students at Loyola. So in closing, I'd just like to add that in my role, I help to guide students towards effective community engagement for service and for research. And it's been a pleasure to share this work with you.
Thank you so much. I'm really thankful to have had the opportunity to take part in this at Loyola.
All right. It's good working with you.